In my childhood, around I would say 6 years old, an existential question intrigued me. I think the first time it was at school during recess. When I looked at the sky, I wondered what would happen if there had never been anything there. And I had no verbal answer, but I experienced a sense of infinity in that moment. I was one with the sky and I disappeared into the universe. It was very pleasant. And when I think about this now, I come to realize that this vastness, this peaceful nothingness is our profound essence. And I think this experience happened around 10 times, maybe more. And after that, I tried to relive it, but I failed. In this video, I'm going to talk about my teenage years. Prior to that, I was a child. I had a normal, typical childhood, I would say, though I did have this spiritual experience. So when I started middle school, I noticed the first interest group, the identity of ego that needs to belong to a social cycle. And I mostly witnessed my first street fight at school, in this middle school. And I remember thinking, okay, life is tough, life is dangerous. I need to be able to defend myself. So my whole character has been built up around a sense of insecurity. At 15, I took up martial art and built up a tough bad boy image about myself. I aimed to intimidate others. But when I think about this now, it was driven by fear and insecurity at the end of the day. I don't want to go too much into my childhood and adolescence. I just wanted to touch on the key points, fear and insecurity. So after that, in my 20s, my life was built around striving for perfection. I wanted my physical body to be perfect. I kept up with practicing martial arts and I competed a lot in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I also used to go out a lot with many women. And again, when I think about all of these things now, all of this was meant to prove something to my ego. And at a given moment, I had a girlfriend. I wanted her to be perfect as well. I was somehow a toxic person because I tried to shape her into what I wanted, flawless. And after that, this relationship fell apart. And then I met a girl whom I believed was perfect. However, that turned out to be totally toxic for me. It wasn't love, but emotional dependency. I struggled a lot with anxiety, with stress, fear, and actually I felt completely down. And we ended this relationship. But it turned out to be a grace in disguise for me. And I thank God for that. I thank God for this relationship that I had, all this suffering. Because when you go through suffering like this, you have to find a place where suffering cannot arise. And I would say that suffering is indeed a gift that God gives you to bring change about yourself, to bring change within yourself. And after this heartbreak, I spent 2 months, that's true, I spent 2 months laying down in a field from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. It was during the COVID-19, the pandemic in 2020. And something shifted. This contact with nature reconnected with me, because as a child, I had always been drawn to nature. So at that time, I was completely down, deeply down. I was eternally dissatisfied. I compare myself a lot constantly. I wanted to get rich. There is nothing wrong with that. I read all the financial books you could ever find. I even set up a company. I had issues with social interaction. Yeah, I remember that. Whenever I spoke to someone, I had this voice in my head, wondering what they thought of me. And during the conversation, that was terrible, you know. So I was completely suffering, though I was unconscious. And then I met a girl, Diane, who is now my wife and the mother of our son. And she told me, Tony, you should read a book that helped me before. And this book is The Miracle Morning. It helps you out to love the morning, you know, to love waking up earlier. So it talks about the 6 habits you have to do before 8 a.m. So I wake up every single day at 5 a.m. and those habits are silence, like meditation, positive affirmations, visualizations, exercise, reading, and scribing, like writing. So I did that for, I think, 6 or 7 months, every single day. But I didn't know what meditation was, you know, so I was lost in my thought. And I remember, okay, so I started meditating. I was like this, lost in my thought, telling myself, okay, I want to be rich, I want to be proud of myself. So I also practiced the positive affirmations, but it was driven by the perspective of ego. So my goal was to become something, to be rich, to be successful, to be famous. So I was like, I want to be confident, I want to be successful, all of this kind of thing, because it was driven by ego, you know. And even the visualization, so I visualized myself like being rich, yeah, some things like that, I think. And even when I read books every single morning, so like 4-5 pages by morning, it was about finance, how to be rich. That was my goal. And then I met a guy who told me, you know, you see, the whole universe leads you in this direction towards God. It's like that for everyone, but you have to be able to see the signs, you know. So when I met a guy, Tom Duquesnoy, he told me, Tony, you should read that book. It was the perfect moment. The Power of Now from Eckhart Tolle. And if you haven't read that book, go to Amazon now and buy it. I think this book changed everything for me. And it deeply resonated with me. And the positive affirmation was, I want to be rich. And it was from that kind of affirmation to, I am peace. I remember I was telling myself that at one moment, I am peace. God and me are one, some things like that. I think I have those on my look, the sign. 1111. That's my number. I'm joking, but this number followed me a lot during the path towards the truth. So I think I kept, all my mantra, I would say. So it's in French, but it's the same. So I'm not my body. That was the last mantra I told myself. I'm not my body, I'm not my mind. Peace, love, and God. So yes, that was my last mantra, I think, before awakening. I am not my mind, I am not my body. Peace, love, and God. Every single morning, during like 5 minutes. No, my last one was simply, I am, I am, I am. But in French, it's je suis, je suis, je suis. And I remember when I pronounced those words, I feel the presence, you know. That's funny when I think about this. And in the same times, I was watching sad songs, so speaking about the truth, speaking about the presence from two French guys, Pierre and Gerald. And it's a shame because they speak only in French and not in English. But those guys deeply resonated with me. And I love the moment of silence when they stop speaking and they were simply present. And you know, it's like a mirror. So I started experiencing some kind of coming and going into the self, or we call it glimpses. And my awakening was exponential, so to speak. Let me explain. It occurred gradually as I become more and more aware. I experienced the self increasingly, I would say. And my first glimpse occurred when I talked to a friend on my balcony at home. And we spoke about the truth, about God. And I remember the presence, like, that arose within me. I was like, oh, I felt very light, very, it was more of something truly potent, that was truly potent. Even if awakening is very, I would say, silent. But when you have your first glimpse, speaking from my point of view, it's like, it's a metaphor, but it's like God opened an eyes through you for the first time. And you're like, wow. And I cried a lot. So there were tears of joy. It's like you see life for the very first time. You see life as it is. And you don't see a concept of life. You are in the let me explain. You remove the filter of Maya, all the concepts, all the ideas, all the thoughts, all the déjà vu, and you are simply present and you are able to see life as it is. And that's so beautiful. And eventually, being aware became stable. Being present became stable. Let me explain. I realized what I was in essence. Consciousness, pure awareness, presence of God, whatever. You can call it as you want, as it deeply resonates with you. So when I had this final shift, I was snowboarding with my wife in the French Alps. I taught my wife to snowboard for the very first time. We went down only 3 ski slopes during that day, and I had to wait up for her all day long without any tension. I remember myself contemplating the distant mountain by being just present without any expectations. And at that moment, I didn't tell myself, oh, the shift occurred. It wasn't like this. It was the next morning when I got up. I had this inner peace and a sense of infinity that I stayed with me ever since. Because all the other morning when I got up, I had this sense of personhood, this sense of I need something more, I need to awaken, I need to get done with this process, I need to. So I wish you a beautiful day and much love, guys.